Before 2024 comes to close, I wanted to talk about my favorite camera of this year, the Ricoh GR IIIx HDF. At first, when I started using it, I actually didn't like it and almost regretted the purchase. But throughout this year, I've been using it as my daily camera, and hands down, it is my favorite of 2024. Before I get into my specific reasons why it's my favorite, I wanted to thank today's video sponsor, Squarespace. I've actually been using Squarespace for over 10 years now. Their templates and easy-to-use interface make it incredibly simple to create and maintain a professional-looking website without any coding experience necessary. My Squarespace website was an essential part of how I built my photography business. It allowed me to showcase my portfolio, share recent work on my blog, and also receive inquiries from potential clients on my contact form. If you're one of those photographers relying on your Instagram profile as a sole place to share your work and build your photography business, I would really consider making a website on Squarespace. You can visit squarespace.com/RJBallsters to start a free trial and get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I think the first obvious point about the Ricoh GR IIIx and just all the Ricoh GR cameras is that they are truly pocketable. Like, they really can fit in not just like a hoodie pocket, not just a jacket pocket. They can really fit in the pocket of your pants. And I have it with me everywhere that I go. When I'm picking up and dropping off my kids at school, when I go to Walmart to get gingerbread houses for my kids, it allows me to always be observant of light, of color, of different moments that are happening with me and my family. And I've gotten a lot more photos that I feel like really describe my style of observing the world. And it's specifically because I had the camera in my pocket. I don't know if other photographers relate, but when you plan to bring your camera, usually the location that you're going to doesn't have really cool light. But when you go on that errand, like you go on a last minute errand, for some reason the sky just looks amazing at that time, and you wish you brought your camera with you. The Ricoh GR allows you to just have a camera ready to just take that. The next reason why I like this camera is specifically because of the one-hand operation. You can like pull it out, turn it on, you can set the auto exposure, you can adjust the compensation a little bit, and then take the photo. Like, that's literally it. Like, you can be carrying something in the other hand. I can carry my kid, I can hold their hand. Having that one-hand operation is awesome, and it's also been able to be opening a lot of doors for my content because I can take a photo with one hand and actually record myself, and that's been able to show a lot of people my process and my perspective of being a photographer and the type of things that I shoot. True one-hand operation, there's not a lot of cameras that can do this. The next reason why this camera is my favorite specifically is I can encapsulate everything in camera. I don't even need to have a filter added to it, because on my Fujifilm cameras I have a 10% Cinebloom in order to get the kind of halation and the bloom that I like. With this camera, it has the HDF filter built in, which is a highlight diffusion filter, and I make a whole video about, you know, the different effects and how this compares to film halation and the Cinebloom and a black pro mist. For me, I've really come to love this type of look. It's heavy-handed for a lot of people. I get it. It's a very niche look, but for me, I'm kind of in this zone of wanting to do destructive decisions when I'm taking a photo, because having the ultimate flexibility of RAW is just no longer fun to me. I'd rather set a black and white or a color and also have the built-in halation in the photo and just take it knowing that I took the photo that I wanted right then and there, instead of having to decide, like, you know, I want the most flexibility later. I'd rather just be able to just decide then and there, this is what I want to capture in this moment. This is my creative decision, my vision for this moment. And because I calibrate the screen of my camera, like being able to even know that my exposure is pretty spot on, like within like 0.5 of a stop, that has freed me from being able to worry about a raw workflow, worry about all that stuff. I can take the photo out of my camera and just send it to my phone and post it straight to Threads and just get some conversations going. That's pretty cool to do. You know, back when I started photography in 2010, I didn't think that this would have been possible for me to be freed from the post-processing part of it, and this camera really kind of made it full circle for me. The last reason why I like this camera specifically is it pushed myself in terms of focal length. I thought I was gonna like specifically the Ricoh GR III because I'm a 28mm fanboy for life. Like, I love that perspective, but I pushed myself to use the GR IIIx with the 40mm perspective, and I found that it's a perspective that encourages me to compose, encourages me to be very thoughtful and methodical with how I crop the world, so to speak, because it's a little bit more punched in, so you can really create relationships between things that are actually not connected and kind of like leave out things that are not important and just focus on what you think it's important. Photography is just as much as what you exclude as what you include. With a 28, you really have to be careful with all that stuff, and I hone my skills with a 28, but I never really hone my skills when it comes to cropping closer and without relying on shallow depth of field. And this camera specifically, because as a 2.8, I'm stopping down most of the time to like f4 to f8 and being able to create these different patterns and compositions and relationships and pops of color and light. I've even been shooting vertical more for some reason with this camera, just because the perspective lends to vertical more. But that is another reason why it's my favorite. It's just, it pushed me and made me grow to love a different focal length that I didn't expect. This camera really has led to a lot of my favorite photos taken this year. Like in my Lightroom catalog, when I look at all my favorite photos, this camera actually comes out on top. I have more photos that are favorite from this camera than from any of them. And that's pretty cool to see that the numbers actually show the story of it being my favorite camera. In my season of life right now, I'm not a pro photographer anymore. I'm not shooting weddings all the time. My kids are in school age, so I don't really have the time to go out and intentionally shoot as I've done before. So rather than going out to different locations and seeking out subjects to shoot, honestly, I just kind of live my life and I have this camera in my pocket and I observe and I photograph it. And I'm not just hunting for photos, but instead I'm just really highly observant of everything around me. Highly observant of shapes, highly observant of patterns and pops of color, and really observant of interesting light, and of course also documenting little moments of joy with my family. This camera, as soon as I got it in April until now, it's my most used camera, and I don't leave the house without it, and it's so small that I don't have any consequences because of that. So if you're looking for a very pocketable camera, one that might be your favorite, check this camera out. Like, I highly recommend it, especially if you want a modern camera that has a little bit of character still.